Is the recent earthquake off the coast of California and the subsequent tsunami warning a sign of things to come? Honestly, I have no idea. But if you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, in this video we're going to talk about the biggest natural disaster that is in the back of everyone's mind. So stay tuned to learn more. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Clem with the Oregon relocation team coming to you from the Oregon coast. In this video, we're going to address something that we have talked about in a lot of other videos, but it's something that does come up quite a bit. It is something that, in fact, we've been called out on in the comments of other videos that we've made for not mentioning. So it's not something that we're avoiding by any stretch of the imagination. We work with a ton of people from all around the country and even coming from outside of the US moving to the Oregon coast. So most people relocating to an area from an area where they haven't previously lived have a lot to learn about what life is like there, what to expect, what are the differences from where they're coming from, what are some of the things that are unique about the Oregon coast in particular. And just like pretty much anywhere in the country, there's going to be some threat of some natural disaster. And on the Oregon coast, the big thing is potential earthquakes and the tsunamis that could take place because of those earthquakes. So there is a lot to learn. There is plenty you can do to prepare. There's a lot of information online about it, so we're going to talk about those things in this video. But what I was getting at is that we've been called out in comments of our videos, people going as far as saying that we are criminally negligent for not warning people about a potential threat of the big one, and the big one would be, I think, like a magnitude 9 earthquake that apparently could cause like 100-foot waves and obviously complete and total devastation. Now, hey, real quick, if this is your first time to the channel or you've been here and you haven't already and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. All right, so I'll say it again, this is not my field of expertise by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, this is something that I think to some degree is a big unknown to a lot of people, even people who research this, and look into it a lot, because, unlike other areas of the country that have regular recurring natural disasters like hurricanes in the southeast, tornadoes in the Midwest, earthquakes really aren't all that common, at least earthquakes that we could feel and have, some type of, disaster quality to it. So I think it's really important for anybody thinking about relocating to the Oregon coast to understand that there is a threat of a major earthquake that, again, really could be completely devastating. And one of the reasons we're bringing this up again is because just a couple of weeks ago, there was this warning on the southern Oregon coast of a tsunami from an earthquake that was off the coast of California. So this earthquake hit on December 5th. It was a 7 magnitude or magnitude 7 earthquake. And again, it was off the coast of California, but there were tsunami warnings for the southernmost 2 counties on the Oregon coast: Curry County, where Brookings, Gold Beach, Port Orford are, and Coos County, where Bandon, Coos Bay, North Bend are. So a lot of people who live in these areas, so the people who live in these areas were notified and started taking steps toward evacuation, which that's pretty scary. I think obviously everybody has a smartphone, or most people do, and have access to a lot of information. So, I can't quite say, I wasn't in the area at the time, so I can't quite say, how much people knew or how much was unknown and how much of a panic there was necessarily. But anytime you get that type of warning, it's going to be pretty alarming, right? It's going to be something that is pretty scary. And again, this is not something that we're dealing with all the time. There was a tsunami warning a couple of years ago from an earthquake that happened off the coast of Tonga, like Pacific Islands. And we get notifications of earthquakes off the coast of Oregon and California all the time. So it's not something that is completely out of sight, out of mind, or, not something that's commonly discussed. I mean, you can't go anywhere on the Oregon coast without seeing that you're in a tsunami zone or that you're leaving a tsunami zone, and the tsunami evacuation routes too, which are online here on the state of Oregon's website. So I'll put a link to that in the description of the video. This is definitely something that if you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, you should be aware of, not only as a consideration as to whether or not you want to move there in the first place, but also if you are going to move to the Oregon coast, make sure you know where you are in terms of elevation, the relative risk in the area, how close the evacuation routes are, and what the protocol would be if you do get warning that you need to take to higher ground. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the risk is and how you can be prepared. So off of the west coast of the United States, we have the Cascadia subduction zone. And this is where a major earthquake would take place that would have a lot of, destruction and subsequent chaos, from, probably not just the earthquake itself, but the tsunami that would happen. And if you look at the timeline, looking back and maybe what to expect looking ahead, so there have been 43 major earthquakes, which I think they're considering to be magnitude of 7 or above. There have been 43 in the last 10,000 years, and the last one was in the year 1700. So apparently there's a 37% chance of a magnitude 7 earthquake or greater in the next 50 years. That's statistically a pretty decent chance, and state agencies, have gone as far as mapping all of the little islands that will come out of this, if we get an earthquake that is as bad as it could be. So, I don't know, kind of working within the range of a magnitude 7, magnitude 9 plus whatever it may be, what the damage would look like kind of at every level. But I think, when they're looking at this, they're looking at worst case scenario, what to expect, and of course how to prepare. But I'll say this again, they have mapped out a series of dozens of islands that ultimately will be all that is left on the Oregon coast if this type of event happens, kind of if or when this type of event happens. So again, there's a ton of resource online on the state of Oregon's website about how you'll be affected depending on where you are, but also how to prepare. And the recommendation is to be at least 2 weeks ready and to have contingency plans in place for food and shelter and water and first aid and anything that you would need for a potentially long duration of time. So what are some of the steps that you can take if you were living on the Oregon coast and an event like this took place? So I think first and foremost, you got to know where you are on a map and know where your evacuation routes are. You might even practice this evacuation route at least once, maybe even once a year, to really familiarize yourself with, okay, if we need to get up and go, where are we going to go? Maybe there's a plan B too. If something happens where this route has now become unavailable or it's too congested, what are the other directions that we could go to get to higher ground? Another thing you can do is go to oralert.gov and sign up for alerts to make sure that you are notified if there is in fact a tsunami warning in place. People are encouraged too to create like a bug out bag, and again, potentially something to even last you a couple of weeks. And this is something that you probably need to replenish on some routine schedule, as far as the food and the water and any other supplies that may expire. So if you know where you're going to go, if you have different contingency plans in place, if you have your supplies ready, I think from there you probably want to be revisiting this plan periodically to make sure that everybody is on the same page, whether that's just you individually or if you live with another person or if you live with several other people, who's going to have what role, how are we going to approach this, how are we going to ensure that we can carry out this emergency plan, God forbid something should happen. Again, I'm not here to tell you that something is imminent by any stretch of the imagination. I'm also not here to tell you that it is completely nothing to worry about, because obviously there is some chance of a potentially catastrophic event. And again, I think there's varying degrees of how bad it could be, but it doesn't take much to create a ton of damage. And again, this could be potentially catastrophic. And so Preparation is key. Understanding where you are, where to go is very important. Again, there are a ton of resources online that I would certainly encourage people to look through so they can be prepared and at least have a little bit of peace of mind that if something were to happen, they know where to go, what to do, and all of that. Now, again, we work with a ton of people relocating to the area, and some people really have this on their radar, and some people, they're hearing about it for the first time. And with all that said, if you are still thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, and if you want to talk more about different towns and neighborhoods and the real estate market and putting together a plan, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video. Schedule a Zoom call with us, and we can talk all about it. If this video was helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.